Very social group here today. Good morning and welcome to the Board of County Commission meeting of June 4th, 2024. If the clerk could call the roll, please.
Commissioner Barnett.
Here.
Commissioner Baxter.
Here.
Commissioner Bernard.
Here.
Vice Mayor Marino.
Here.
Mayor Sachs.
Here.
Commissioner Weiss.
Here.
Commissioner Woodward.
Here.
Thank you.
There is a quorum. Vice Mayor Marino, would you please lead us in the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance?
Good morning. Good morning. Please bow your heads and pray with me. Let us pray silently together, each one of us according to our belief. Let us offer thanks for the blessing of fellowship around us. Let us be a source of hope for those in need. Let the feelings of love, kindness, and a well-directed yet gentle spirit always be reflected in our actions. And let us leave the world a better place than we found it. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We're going to go into the agenda approval at this time. Ms. Baker, is there any additions, deletions, substitutions of the agenda as printed?
Yes, there.
Good morning, Mayor.
Good
Sorry
morning,
for the
Ms.
delay.
Baker.
On page 32, 3AA2 has a revised motion summary. On page 39, we have a revised summary as well. In addition, on page 42, we have a revised summary. And on page 44, we have a revised motion as well as summary. On page 45, we also have a revised summary. I do apologize for so many revisions, but this was a short turnaround time.
Very good, thank you. I'd like to see if the board would agree to adopt the agenda as modified. I have first from Commissioner Barnett and a second from Commissioner Woodward. All those for, anybody opposed? See that it passes unanimously, 7-0. The agenda has been adopted as modified. And we're about ready to go to the consent agenda at this time. And does anybody wish to pull any item from the consent agenda at this time? Yes, I see Commissioner Baxter. Go right ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to pull page 32, agenda item 3AA2 from consent.
Very good.
I'll second.
And we have a second from the Vice Mayor. You're recognized if you'd like to say anything about it at this time, or, oh, I see, we're going to take a vote. All those with us to pull?
To move to consent agenda.
We have a second.
We already have a poll. Okay, then you can vote.
She pulled it, okay. So we're going to look at the rest of the consent agenda at this time. And if there's anybody who wishes to pull anything from the consent other than that one item, we can go ahead and approve the consent agenda as pulled at this time. Commissioner Weiss is recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to go ahead and approve the consent agenda, less item 3AA2.
Second.
I have a second with Vice Mayor. All those for, anybody opposed? See that it passes unanimously at this time. Okay, so let's go ahead and recognize Commissioner Baxter.
Oh, thank you, Mayor.
Sure, of course.
I more so wanted to pull this to at least have a conversation. I am sure We have had several discussions around PalmTran, and I saw that we're purchasing 3 electric buses, and it looks like it's a sum of a very large amount. So if we could get a breakdown of where those funds are coming from, and maybe a little more discussion on, is this the direction we as a board would like to head with converting all of them to electric?
Very good. All right. Mr. Todd Bonlaren, you're recognized.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Thank you, Commissioner Baxter, for bringing this item up. It's obviously an important item to us at PalmTran, and I think the broader conversation is very warranted. We have had a number of discussions, both at the Board of County Commissioners over the past years, on the issue of electrification of vehicles, and particularly as a policy discussion. We've had some deeper dives, too, with a number of you at TPA, and have done a number of presentations, particularly with our Road to Zero Emissions, where we went over in more detail sort of the plan for electrification. This particular item is almost a follow-up to an item that we brought to the BCC last year, where we received authorization to move forward with receiving the funds in a grant from the federal, from the state DOT, which are federal funds that come down for 6 electric vehicles. And just from a policy perspective, the goals at PalmTran have been looking at doing a 25% zero emissions fleet by 2032. That's been what we've laid out there, what we've brought to the board, and what we brought to the TPA. And TPA has also been a partner with us as well on the funding side of this. To date, the funds that we have received have been TPA funds that have been granted to us, as well as DOT funds. And on the item before you on 3AA2, where we talk about the $3.3 million for the 3 buses for electric vehicles, and it talks about requiring a 50% match. That match actually is additional grant funding that we're eligible to use in order to draw down this. So no ad valorem dollars are used in this proposal, nor any that we have received funding for in the past. And one thing I would just share with you, obviously the federal government has put a lot of emphasis on electrification of fleets. We certainly have heard from the board too. I know the vice mayor has been very vocal about this at a number of meetings in terms of support for electrification, but not for an entire fleet electrification, and making sure that what we do is we create at least a diversified fleet to ensure continuity of operations, et cetera. But one thing, we've been a little slow to the electric game, mostly because of batteries and battery life in some of the vehicles. And as we've been working with a lot of our vendors, the battery technology has gotten better and better every step of the way. So it's given us a little more confidence on use of those, particularly on some of our, with as long of routes as we have that run during the course of a day. I will also introduce Lynn. Johnson Lynn has been working with us on the funding and financial component of this. And Lynn, if you have some additional comments that you wanted to add to that as well.
Good morning, Commissioners. I just wanted to answer directly your questions as far as the funding, maybe what we've received so far. As Todd said, we currently have a little over $10 million right now for electrification, $1.8 million coming from the federal government. That was the Volkswagen settlement that was allocated to transit agencies, and a little over $9 million from the TPA. We will be bringing those grant agreements forward to the board, but they have been fully funded to the TPA, as well as this additional $1.6 million. Now, these are grant agreements. We have not brought to the board actual purchase orders, and so we have not committed to a specific vendor nor the purchase of the vehicles as of yet. We're just receiving the grant funding.
Mr. Bonlaren, do you have anything else?
No, I just wanted to share that, we've been very careful as we've moved forward, and we've heard from board members as well, as we move forward with electrification, to make sure that we diversify that fleet as well. So, there's about 4 vendors that we have brought to Palm Beach County to demo their particular vehicles, and want to make sure in an ever-changing environment of technology and suppliers that we don't maybe get into one particular vendor or the other, and make sure that we continue to diversify that as we move into the future. So I would also say that, on a federal side, these dollars are not eligible for us to use for something else. So if the thought is, well, can we use these funds for the purchase of electric vehicles? That is not an option that we have. These are specific to electric vehicles. And that being said, we also feel like if we were to not move forward on the electrification, we would have to dig deeper into some of our federal grant funds that we have to replace these vehicles with electric vehicles. And we're trying to use some of those funds for things like bus stops and shelters and the like to move forward with those. So again, there's sort of a cost-benefit analysis to it, but I just wanted to be clear that our goal was not for a complete electrification of our fleet. It was just a diversification and a goal that we set forward. So that's it, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much for that. It was very comprehensive. Commissioner Baxter, do you have any questions or comments? Or certainly any questions for the staff on this?
Yes, please. Todd, what's the goal? How many? I believe you said we purchased 6 last year.
So right now we have 6 that we have grant funding for. This is another 3. Our goal is by 2032 to have about 25% of our fleet, which is roughly about 40 vehicles or so of the total POMTRAN fixed route fleet to be able to go to a zero emission vehicle.
I have a few more, if that's okay.
Sure, go right ahead.
So over the course of time, we'll slowly get those. You said emissions. There's some other factors. Did we ever get a cost exactly at how much those batteries are?
Yes, we do have that information. The battery packs themselves cost about $60,000 per pack. Each bus comes with 7 battery packs. We have a 6-year warranty on the batteries themselves through the bus manufacturer. Of course, all of those battery packs are not going to be replaced simultaneously. And we are also expecting to see decreased maintenance costs, which should offset some of those expenses with the battery pack.
So unless my math is off, the 7 battery packs to replace them would be $420,000.
That's correct.
And are we aware of what happens to lithium-ion batteries should, heaven forbid, a flood or water or any kind of hurricane hit us and water mixes with a lithium-ion battery?
I'm not sure about that. Fire explosion.
They explode, and you can't put it out. So this is a concern, I believe, especially in Florida, when we're talking about electric vehicles, safety of our passengers, safety going forward, and cost. If that happens, we're 25% of our fleet is electric. We then have to replace $420,000 worth of batteries. And we know Florida hurricanes are real, and we can have water problems. So these are concerns that I have with where are we going with the electric, and them charging consistently is a whole nother conversation that I don't think we'll waste a lot of time on. But I just, again, wanted to get a feel for the board. If this is the direction that my fellow commissioners would like to head in, we can. I'm not a fan of it, but this is kind of the world that my husband and I live in. So just having a very close understanding of how electric isn't always the best answer. But that's me. So thank you, guys.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Baxter. Commissioner Weiss?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move item 3AA2, motion to adopt a resolution by the Board of County Commissioners of Palm Beach County approving the public transportation grant agreement and approve a budget amendment of $1.690027 million to the POMTRAN grant fund.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bernard. Although,
Hold on a second.
Vice Mayor Marino, you're welcome to speak.
Thank you. I actually also share Commissioner Baxter's concern. This is a discussion we had yesterday. I do not want to see, we're not going to be able to stop the train when it comes to electrified buses, but in no way, shape, or form are we going to become 100% electrified because, again, we run out of power. We're going to use a gas generator to power up electric vehicles. So what have we accomplished? So as a minimum at 25%, I'm comfortable, but going forward, I hesitate to electrify the entire fleet. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if I may, Mr. Von Laren, I share a concern that, first of all, where we purchase batteries, and what the importance of Palm Tram is in case of emergency to transport our people. So I think that what we could do is and I don't know if it's going to pass today or not, but I would like for you all your staff, to stay in close contact with the 7 of us so that these concerns can be addressed as we proceed towards battery-powered buses. These buses are very important transportation. And these concerns that were raised are Florida concerns. I know these are federal grants, which are important for us to take advantage of. However, Florida has a unique climate, and we have a very large population. I don't want to see any vulnerability on our transportation system. So, and you will stay in touch with all 7 of us as this progresses. Also, I'd be very interested, and you can do it by email, as to the origin of the batteries, and if there's any issues with us getting greater, more volume of batteries as we continue to electrify our fleet. Okay, with that being said, we have a first, we have a second for passage. Do we need a roll call, or should we? No? Okay. Then all those for, anybody against? See that it passes 7-0 with the proviso that the staff will keep us advised.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, we are ready to go on to special presentations at this time. And I'm going to ask, our county commissioners know how to do it. So with that in mind, let's proceed on to page 39.
Yes.
And we will start, of course, with Vice Mayor to my right, and to my left, Commissioner Weiss.
Good morning, all, and welcome to June. Oh, my heavens. Where did this year go? So, as we start our proclamations today, we are declaring June 3rd through 7th as Code Enforcement Officers Appreciation Week. And I know we've got a group in the audience who are going to join us today, so may I have, I'm going to read off names. If there's any more or less, please come on down. Cindy Hoskins, Michelle Pagan, Richard Torrance, Dawn Sobek, Elizabeth Gonzalez, Larry Caracho, Dwayne Johnson, Richard Paget, Paul Rickett, Michelle Daniels.
Good morning.
Good morning, all. How are you today? Thank you for coming down.
Good morning, Mike.
So, as we declare June 3rd through 7th, 2024 as Code Enforcement Officers Appreciation Week, whereas code enforcement officers provide for the safety, health, and welfare of Palm Beach County residents through the enforcement of housing, property maintenance, zoning, building, public right-of-ways, environmental and other codes and ordinances, and whereas code enforcement officers are often not credited for the jobs they do in improving neighborhoods and overall quality of life, whereas everyday officers provide quality customer service to the public for the betterment of the community, and whereas code enforcement officers are dedicated, well-trained, and highly responsible individuals who take their job seriously and are proud of their department and the local government within which they serve. And whereas the Florida Association of Code Enforcement has declared the first week of June to be set aside by local government agencies to honor and recognize their code enforcement officers. And whereas county residents are encouraged to join the Board of County Commissioners in expressing appreciation for the dedication and outstanding service provided by the individuals who serve as our code enforcement officers, now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Palm Beach County, Florida, assembled in regular session on this 4th day of June 2024, that June 3rd through 7th, 2024 in Palm Beach County is hereby proclaimed Code Enforcement Officers Appreciation Week. Thank you very much. Anybody want to say anything?
Thank you very much. We appreciate your recognition of our group. We are a fine team, and we work together well. And I thank the commissioners for your guidance and also for the collaboration that we do with all of our partners within Palm Beach County. Thank you very much.
While they're taking their pictures, I'd like to ask the folks that are here for National HIV Testing Day to come forward. And I'd also like to take a moment of personal privilege and recognize State Attorney Dave Ehrenberg is in our chambers this morning. Good morning. Whereas in the United States, more than 1 million people are living with HIV, and every 15 minutes, a new HIV transmission occurs, resulting in more than 30,000 new HIV diagnoses annually. And whereas in Florida, more than 124,500 people are living with HIV. An estimated 10 new transmissions occur daily, and 1 in 7 people with HIV don't know they're infected. And whereas in Palm Beach County, more than 8,600 people, or 1 in 175 residents, are living with HIV. And newly developed, highly advanced treatments can deliver hope and enhance the quality of life for those who are infected. These considerable advancements can only help individuals if they know their HIV status and are linked to the life-saving medical care. And whereas each year on June 27th, National HIV Testing Day is observed to raise awareness about the importance of HIV testing, as well as early diagnosis and linkage to medical care to inspire the nation to achieve its shared vision of 0 new HIV infections and AIDS-related deaths and no discrimination. And whereas the joint United Nations program on HIV/AIDS established an ambitious 95, 95, 95 global targets for 2030, where 95% of all persons with HIV will know their HIV status, 95% of all people diagnosed with HIV will receive sustained antiretroviral therapy, and 95% of all people receiving ART will have viral suppression. And whereas this year marks the 30th annual observance of National HIV Testing Day, and the Palm Beach County HIV Community Prevention Partnership and Palm Beach County HIV Care Council through its partners are working together to provide HIV testing throughout the county from June 23rd to June 29th, 2024. And whereas all county residents are encouraged to take an HIV test to know their status, and to participate in activities and observances designed to increase awareness and understanding and promote prevention initiatives to end the HIV epidemic. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Palm Beach County, Florida, assembled in regular session on this 4th day of June 2024, that June 27th, 2024 in Palm Beach County is hereby proclaimed National HIV Testing Day.
Good morning, esteemed members of our Board of County Commissioners. My name is Kristen Harrington. Thank you. I am the Palm Beach County Regional Director for the AIDS Healthcare Foundation. We are the largest service provider of HIV and AIDS services through the world. I'm also a proud member of the HIV Care Council here in Palm Beach County. South Florida has the highest number of new diagnoses in the country, with Palm Beach County having the highest increase between 2018 and 2022. So today we're proclaiming this National HIV Testing Day, and it's a crucial reminder of the importance of knowing one's HIV status. With your support, and with federal programs like Ryan White and 340B, providing cost savings that help Floridians get and stay in care, this National Testing Day proclamation represents your continued commitment to testing and treatment, and to the vital programs that make these services possible and save lives. Palm Beach County HIV Care Council has been tirelessly working to increase access to quality care for those living with HIV and AIDS in our community and to promote awareness. Through collaborative efforts with all of our agencies under the direction of Care Council members, officers, and coordinator, Nita Mahani, We continue to combat stigma, provide education, and ensure everyone the opportunity to live a healthy life here in our community. So we thank you for your ongoing support and dedication to our important cause.
Commissioner Barnett, you go right ahead. And Commissioner McBurnett.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everyone. It is my honor to present this proclamation to Friends of Fisher House. Friends of Fisher House has consistently demonstrated an unwavering commitment to supporting our military families during their times of greatest need. Their efforts embody the spirit of community and service that we all strive to uphold. Okay. I'd like to invite Ms. Lauren Bergson, President of Friends of Fisher House, to join me at the podium, and your guests. Shelley Prickett, Fred Angelo, John Rothberg, Rick Salvatore, and Corey Price. A proclamation of the Board of County Commissioners of Palm Beach County, Florida, declaring June 4th as Friends of Fisher House, Inc. Day. Whereas the Fisher House Foundation, Inc. is an international nonprofit that works alongside the Veterans Health Administration to provide complimentary quality of life service for active military members, veterans, and their families. And whereas the Fisher House program was established in 1990 by Zachary and Elizabeth Fisher in response to the recognized need for housing for military families while their loved ones were hospitalized. And whereas currently there are more than 95 Fisher Houses in the United States and abroad, the Friends of Fisher House, Inc. supports the West Palm Beach Fisher House that opened in 1995 to ensure military families experience the comforts of home while a loved one is receiving vital care at the West Palm Beach VA Medical Center or a nearby facility.
Very sad.
And whereas in 1998, veterans Dennis Kohler, Thomas Corey, Gerald Klein, and Frank Hogan founded West Palm Beach Friends of Fisher House, Inc., which contributes to the mission of compassion and philanthropy that continues to inspire and benefit countless families. And whereas Friends of Fisher House, Inc. Board of Directors President Lauren Bergson honors her father, Captain Joseph M. Bergson, a U.S. Army Ranger killed in action in Vietnam in 1972 through her volunteerism. And whereas she has contributed to the community through various organizations, including serving as a director of the Wounded Veterans Relief Fund, Sons and Daughters in Touch, and Friends of Veterans, Inc. And whereas Lauren Bergson led efforts to educate the community about POW, MIA, and Gold Star families that sacrificed a loved one who was in the service to our nation. She spearheaded the installation of the Gold Star Families Memorial Monument in Trinity Park, West Palm Beach, and 15 Gold Star Memorial markers throughout Palm Beach County. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Palm Beach County, Florida, assembled in regular session on this 4th day of June, 2024, that June 4th, 2024, in Palm Beach County is hereby proclaimed Friends of Fisher House, Inc. Day.
Thank you, Commissioner Barnett, and I thank you for initiating this. It's really an honor for us to be recognized. Shelley's our VA Fisher House manager. She's the heart and soul of our Fisher House. And our proud supporters, our Vice President, our amazing supporters that are here today. Like you said, our Fisher House was built in 1995 when our VA was built. And if any of you are familiar, it's on Blue Heron and Military Trail. And if you've never been there, freedom is visible there. And I would ask that people would support our effort to build a handicap accessible, fully accessible home for our disabled veterans and their disabled children that stay with us. So we will be working on building a new house. And Palm Beach County will have the finest Fisher House for our military and active duty families and veteran families. So I want to present you with this certificate of appreciation and this challenge coin. And I want you to know how much it means for our legislators to know the people that we owe so much are being taken care of. So thank you so much. And Shelley has something.
Would Kelly Powell, CEO of Community Partners of South Florida, please come forward? Myra, wow. Jakova, Natalie O'Hara, Jamie Lee Bradshaw, Linda Charles, Suzanne Shirley, and Charlotte Pelton, please come forward. And the rest of the team. This proclamation declaring June 1st through the 8th, 2024 as the Neighbor Works Week. Whereas Community Partners of South Florida is the trusted leader in comprehensive community development, investing in people, places, and systems so neighborhoods and residents can thrive. And whereas Community Partners of South Florida is a chartered member of Neighbor Works America and has served Palm Beach County for 38 years. And whereas Neighbor Works Week celebrates the way Neighbor Works America, a network of organizations and residents, work together to enhance lives. And whereas Neighbor Works Week showcases the work of local organizations empowering people to act so they can achieve their goals for safer, more secure housing and healthier, thriving communities. And whereas Neighbor Works Week was initiated in 1983 by a United States congressional resolution co-sponsored by more than 240 members of Congress and signed by President Ronald Reagan. And whereas Neighbor Works Week is an annual national celebration held the first full week of June, and whereas Neighbor Works Week celebrates neighborhood success, empowerment, pride, and unity among nearly 250 organizations in all 50 states, Washington, D.C., and Puerto Rico. And whereas in celebration of Neighbor Works Week, all residents are encouraged to participate in the activities planned by Community Partners of South Florida. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Palm Beach County, Florida, assembled in regular session on this 4th day of June 2024, that June 1st through the 8th, 2024 in Palm Beach County is hereby proclaimed Neighbor Works Weeks. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, Kelly Powell, Community Partners of South Florida. Thank you, Commissioner Bernard, for supporting us on this important week for Palm Beach County. And thank you to all the commissioners. As you know, affordable housing is a crisis. And I couldn't be prouder to work with a team that addresses that every single day as a leader in comprehensive community development. As you can see, we brought a team because that's what it takes to change affordable housing needs in Palm Beach County. So we appreciate your support. We've been working on this for 38 years in partnership with the county, and we look forward to many years coming. Thank you. I have for you a pin to support Neighbor Works Week, and thank you so much for your support.
Is Dave Ehrenberg in the house? If you are, come on up, Mr. Ehrenberg. And if you'd like, we could also invite up Mark Freeman, and L. Johnson, and Adrian Ellis, or anybody else from the State Attorney's Office team at this time. This is an Ehrenberg team.
Fix it up, girl. They don't have enough space.
Can she?
Am I covering you? We gotta get together soon. We just want to be a part of this.
Now, who's minding the office? Huh? Nobody? No, 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 don't tell anybody.
Do you want to do like this stage? I'm going to go ahead and do it.
Sure. We're going to take a pause while we get the whole team, the Ehrenberg team, together. And I wonder if Commissioner Bernard could probably start on his next one while we take this little pause. Thank you, Commissioner Bernard. We're going to take a little pause. I'm going to pass the gavel to you. Let's go ahead and do that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Would James Green and Taruna Malhotra please come forward? You have anybody else? Okay. Okay. How you doing? Good to see you. This proclamation declaring June 19th, 2024 as Juneteenth Day. Whereas President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863, declaring enslaved people shall be free. And the 13th Amendment was passed by Congress on January 31st, 1865. And whereas Juneteenth is a commemoration celebrating the emancipation of those who were kept in bondage in Texas 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. And whereas on June 19, 1865, Union General Gordon Granger led troops into Galveston, Texas, to announce the end of the Civil War and the institution of slavery. Thousands of enslaved people in Texas were among the last to learn of their liberation. And whereas the commemorations that began in Texas spread around the nation, with other communities joining and celebrating this milestone in the journey to freedom for all. And whereas Palm Beach County Community Services Department and Palm Tran are proud to celebrate Juneteenth and will host a culture tour on June 17th, 2024, highlighting the history of African Americans in Palm Beach County and their sacrifices and contributions to our community. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Palm Beach County, Florida, assembled in regular session on this 4th day of June 2024, that June 19th, 2024 in Palm Beach County is hereby proclaimed Juneteenth Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bernard, Commissioners, Mayor, Vice Mayor. This is a very, very important proclamation, and we thank you for recognizing Juneteenth and the significance of this day to blacks all over the country and the world. And so we are focusing on making sure that we understand the contributions of blacks here in Palm Beach County. On June the 17th, we're partnering with Palm Tran, and we'll be going to some historical sites throughout the county and having a number of our leaders to talk about some of the contributions of African Americans and other blacks here in this county. And I wanted to invite up Debbie Range, who is the, I don't know anyone with as much history and knowledge as Debbie Range. She's the facilitator of the tour that we will host on the 17th and have done for the past probably 3 or 4 years. And it is always engaging to hear her talk and to just, you're in awe at how she knows and recalls all of this information about our county. And so we want to invite you to attend, but I also want to make sure that she has a chance to say a few words.
Thank you again, Commissioner Mac Bernard, and thank you to all the commissioners and Ms. Baker as well. As Mr. Green said, this is a most important and historic celebration. It just reveals the resistance, the resilience, the courage of our people who laid the foundation for where we are today. And so, as we do celebrate, we do need to reflect and think about every step our ancestors took as they made that bold step forward to just not be confined to the bondage in which they were in. And so we thank everybody in Palm Beach County for this proclamation, and we wish you all the best. Thank you.
Commissioner Woodward, would you like to go ahead and do a proclamation at this time? Thank you. You can come on over here.
Good morning. If I could have Michael Blaylock, Interim Executive Director of PalmTran, Valerie Nielsen, Executive Director of the Transportation Planning Agency, Brian Rusher, Deputy Director of Multimodal of the Transportation Planning Agency, and Victor Garcia, Director of Public Affairs for South Florida Regional Transportation Authority, and anyone else here for the Dump the Pump proclamation. Whereas public transportation is critical in transporting essential workers, reducing traffic congestion, and creating cleaner air. And whereas the American Public Transportation Association brings together hundreds of transit providers each year to raise awareness and encourage everyone to dump the pump. Whereas PalmTran, working closely with the Palm Beach Transportation Planning Agency, provides 28,000 rides daily and encourages everyone to use the promo code, listen carefully, Transit 2024 in their Paradise Pass app from June 16th to 22nd to ride for free. And whereas the South Florida Regional Transportation Authority reported in March 2024 that Tri-Rail commuter rail service has fully recovered its ridership from 4 years ago, averaging 15,000 weekday riders, and achieved its average weekday ridership with 8,000 riders on Saturday and Sundays. South Florida traffic congestion continues to rise and people turn to public transportation services to avoid driving. The Transportation Planning Agency has programmed or prioritized approximately $40 million over the next 5 fiscal years to make transit more accessible, provide new vehicles and train sets, and bus and train infrastructure for countywide services and the region. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners, Palm Beach County, Florida, assembled in regular session on this 4th day of June 2024, that June 20th, 2024, in Palm Beach County is hereby proclaimed Dump the Pump Day. Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm so happy to be here today with our partners at Tri-Rail and the TPA to continue to let people know of their transit options in Palm Beach County. Dump the Pump Day is a national initiative done by many transit organizations across the country to do exactly that, let people know of their transit options. And this year we're sweetening the deal a little bit with $5 added to your Paradise Pass with the code Transit 2024. And so because of initiatives like this, I know that Tri-Rail has had record ridership, and I'm proud to announce today that we have had in April 2024 the highest number of recorded total ridership since January 2020. And so that is close to more than 866,000 rides in total, which represents a 24.4% increase when compared to last year. So we are moving in the right direction, and we're going to continue to do so. Thank you.
quickly thank you, as I always do every time we come up here, thank the commission for being very supportive of Tri-Rail throughout all the years, the 35 years that we've been running service. As Commissioner Woodward, who's part of our board, already shared, Tri-Rail is one of the only systems that has recovered its ridership. And we made a special announcement last week that the board approved for us to run an express train from West Palm Beach, stopping at Boca, Fort Lauderdale Airport, and down to make a one-seat ride connection into downtown Miami. Same thing on the way back. So would love to see more residents who have been supporting of the system to continue to use it and help solve the problem of getting around South Florida. So thank you very much.
Members of the commission and neighbors, I'm very proud to be here representing the TPA today. We're very proud to have prioritized or programmed about $40 million for our transit system, not just for new vehicles and new train sets, but also for new transit shelters and new means to get to transit stops safely. So we're very proud to have many members of the commission serving as our governing board. We're proud to have all of our supporters here today and our regional transit partners, and we want to thank you all for recognizing Dump the Pump Day. Appreciate it.
I think we're ready to proceed. I'd like to take a matter of personal privilege at this point and to recognize the new Mrs. Dave Ehrenberg. Would you come on up and join your husband at this point? You don't mind. We are good friends. And this is why we took a pause, ladies and gentlemen, out of respect for his new wife to be here. I think that's really a sign of a beautiful relationship and a long-lasting marriage. So we're going to proceed on. We have with us today a number of people with Dave Ehrenberg, and that is his staff. Do we have everybody here now? I'm glad we can proceed at this point. Now we're going to declare this day, June 4th, as Dave Ehrenberg Day, all day, and we've still got a number of hours to go. Well, you know, and we know Dave Ehrenberg. He was elected our state attorney and has served in that position for 12 years, where he leads a team of 115 prosecutors and 180 professional staff in 5 offices throughout the county. Whereas he graduated from that little school in Massachusetts, Harvard College, and also went on to Harvard Law School, where he received a Juris Doctorate with honors. And I think you had a White House fellowship as well. I'm ad-libbing here a little bit. Dave and I go back a long time. And whereas he was elected to the Florida Senate in 2002 as the youngest member, got that, Senator Powell? The youngest member, and served for 8 years. And whereas Mr. Ehrenberg was a special prosecutor for prescription drug trafficking, and he was designated as drug czar. He led an anti-pill mill initiative that helped clean up this clinic industry and reduce the number of people dying each day from oxycodone abuse. And whereas as state attorney, he's continued his work to save lives from drug overdoses. He created the Sober Homes Task Force that has made more than 120 arrests for patient brokering and insurance fraud in the rehabilitation industry, and has led to several new Florida laws and regulations that have been models for other states in the country. His leadership has led to high state rankings in conviction rates. This is a lot for your team as well. For both felonies and misdemeanors, a decrease in the number of juvenile direct files, and greatly improved working relationship with local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies. And we know that our state attorney, Dave Ehrenberg, is a guest on MSNBC's Morning Joe, where he passionately speaks out on legal issues, particularly those related to the criminal justice system. Therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Palm Beach County, Florida, assembled in regular session this 4th day of June 2024, that this day in Palm Beach County is hereby proclaimed Dave Ehrenberg Day.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really am honored. It's been a wonderful 12 years as your state attorney and 8 years as state senator before that. Commissioner Sachs, thank you so much. And to members of the Board of County Commissioners, appreciate you all so much. I did not expect to have a day of mine. Todd Bunlaren and your team. Now, if I show that to Starbucks, does that get me a free venti? Is that how it works? Just oh, it's still $5. Okay. I'm here today because of the incredible staff that I have, the team that we have that makes our office go and serves our community so well. And the highest form of public services is, in my mind, is to protect public safety, is to make sure our communities are safe, our families are safe. And these are the people that make me look good in our office so successful. From left to right, Mark Freeman, our public information officer. And thank you, Mark, for your service. Al Johnson, Chief Assistant State Attorney, who is the head of our Sober Homes Task Force. That's the task force mentioned in the proclamation that has made 121 arrests since October 2016, that's cleaned up the drug treatment industry in our community. It's my legacy issue. It's the issue that I think has been our top priority, and we've saved so many lives. Al, thank you for your service. Adrian Ellis, Chief Assistant State Attorney, who just is involved in every aspect of the office, and just yesterday got a guilty verdict in a very serious murder case. And she's there not only helping to run the office, but on the ground floor in the courtroom. And Adrian, you're the best. And she and I are scheduled to do a murder case together in August. Yes, there's no one I'd rather do it with. And Alexia Cox, Deputy Chief Assistant State Attorney. Alexia is the head of our Dove unit, although she's taken a leave of absence for some reason. I think she's trying to do something else in the future. You can look it up. She's the head of our Dove unit, that's domestic violence elimination. She helped create a diversion program that's been a model now for the rest of the country. And she's the head of our CRU, our convictions review unit, which reviews convictions that may have been wrongfully decided, where someone could be stuck in a cell who did not commit the crime. And as prosecutors, it's not about convicting in every case. It's about doing justice. There is a difference, and that's what we're about. And of course, my wife, Sasha, so we're still newlyweds, so it's been a month, and I'm just very grateful for you, Sasha, and for you, my team, and for everyone else on the team who are watching in the office and will watch afterwards. I couldn't have asked for a better group of people. Although I'm stepping away from this position in 6 months, not for another 6 months, I'm not going to be stepping away from this community. I'm going to continue to remain involved, just in a different way. So God bless you. God bless Palm Beach County. I'm truly honored today and always to be part of this incredible community.
Yeah, that's right.
Starbucks expires at midnight.
All drinks are Thank you, everybody, for your patience. I think this is some of the best parts of our meetings. We're going to proceed now on to our regular agenda, which is found, if you're following, on page 40. And we are going to start. I see the staff. Ms. Collazo is always ready to go here. We are ready to start on the regular agenda, 5A1. And does anybody request a yes?
Madam Mayor,
we have Commissioner Weiss, and then I don't see your light on, Bernard.
He's going to take it. Let him.
Yeah, let's make a motion to approve item 5A1, Madam Mayor.
Second.
Got it. Oh, very good. Do we have any comments? Otherwise, we will go. We do have a comment. Vice Mayor Marino, you're on.
If anyone from Perro Farms is in the audience, I just want to say thank you. You made my mom really happy with your string beans, and I also can find them up in upstate New York. So when we're talking about how we partner here with the agricultural community and how important it is to the rest of our country, I found them in a little tiny shopping center up in upstate New York. So thank you to the Perro family. They've been on this property for a very long time. They continue to work the land, and I think it's a wonderful use of our land. It's just what the dollars were for, how we've protected agriculture here, and I just want to say thank you, and let's go.
Okay, all those for. Anybody opposed? See that it passes unanimously, 7-0. All right, do we need a separate for? Okay, so let's do on.
Madam Mayor, I make a
sir.
motion to approve item 5A2.
Very good, and I have a second with Commissioner Weiss. All those for, anybody opposed? See that that also passes, 5A2. Thank you very much. That was a very quick presentation. Okay, going on to 5A3, A, B, and C. All right, and if I could have, we have a presentation. Does folks want a presentation at this time? I see.
We just have our cards.
We have several cards. Okay, very good. Commissioner Weiss?
Thank you. Deborah Range.
As you hear your name, come on up to the podium. How many cards do we have, Commissioner?
One.
One, okay. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. And thank you to the Board of County Commissioners, to my commissioner, Mr. Mac Bernard, and to Ms. Baker. My name is Deborah Range, and I'm the president for the Palm Beach County African Diaspora Historical and Cultural Society. And I'm speaking in support of this particular agenda item. So your approval of the funding for the African American Museum at the historic Roosevelt High School will allow for the continuation and planning and gathering of resources that will result in the long-anticipated and much-needed Museum of African and African American History and Culture. We did an extensive research project about the black high schools that were reduced to middle schools during desegregation, and we were wondering what happened to them. And it revealed that through the cooperation and agreements of cities and counties and school boards around the state, that many of the former high schools have been restored, or they've been turned into community centers and museums. And so this is why we ask for your support for this particular funding to restore this high school. And it will be dedicated to the celebration and dissemination of history and culture of the diaspora. It is even more important than ever to promote the understanding, the appreciation, the advancement of the Black experience through programming, exhibits, activities that teach the real local and national history and celebrate the resistance, celebrate the bravery, the resilience, of the ancestors through a global lens. I ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Are there any other comments or questions by members of the board? Commissioner Barnett, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I know we don't have any additional cards, but I do have letters of support from the community that I would like entered into the record.
You go right ahead, sir.
For support for the Multicultural Resource Center, which I'm hoping the Board of County Commissioners will approve today. It's a very important need for our community, in particular District 3. It will facilitate the educational, social, and economic progress of the communities that we all serve, directly in line with the county strategic objectives. Excuse me. Is there anything I need to do, or do I just hand these letters to the clerk?
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
And Commissioner Bernard, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve item 3A, 3A, B, and C, and I'd like to comment after I make that motion.
And I'm sorry, would you, I didn't hear the last.
5A, 3A, B, and C.
Very good. And we have a second by Commissioner Barnett. I'd just like to say a few words about this issue. I'd like to recognize two senators, Senator Arthenia Joyner, who served in the Florida legislature and started the progress on this very wonderful this very wonderful project, as well as Senator Geraldine Thompson, who is still serving in our legislature and was, at the time that this was brought up, as well as the celebration and recognition of June 19th, to be the CEO of African American museums in the state of Florida. And upon these shoulders, I think we have risen to the point where we will work with everybody in our community so that these stories are told. I also welcome other groups in the county to work with county staff and Ms. Baker to have their stories told as well. This is a rich and diverse county. I have represented all parts of this county in the legislature as well as today. And I think stories need to be told. And they need to be told by those in our community who are best to tell them, not in some podcast 10 years from now. So I thank you all for doing this, and I particularly thank my two colleagues, Commissioner Barnett and Commissioner Bernard, for headlining this project for here in Palm Beach County, as well as to recognize Ms. Baker. With that, we're going to take a vote. Or did you want to say
yes.
something? Go right ahead, Commissioner Bernard.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I want to thank the Roosevelt High School alumni who are here. If you're here, can you please stand up?
With the permission of the board, I'd like to have a picture taken of those of you who are wearing, who are alumni. Or if there's anybody here attending the high school today, I'm sure you don't have to be at school right now. But if you'd like to come forward and have a picture, we would be most proud to do that at this.
So we'll do that after the vote, and I'll speak first. Let me finish just want to. This is really about the community in terms of a community project where there's a need and the entire community came together to bring this issue forward. So first of all, I want to thank the Community Foundation. We have Danita MK who is here, who took the initiative to step up to be a partner with this issue. County administration, Ms. Baker, Izumi, county staff for working on this agreement and to have it to be heard today on June 4th. The Cultural Council of Palm Beach County, and for continuing to be a partner with us to move this issue forward. The School District of Palm Beach County, Specifically, you have school board member Edwin Ferguson, and I see former school board member Dr. Debbie Robinson, who's in the back. So thank you for being here, and of course, the city of West Palm Beach. So I'm looking forward to us establishing an African American History Museum and Library in Palm Beach County, and this vote that we take today will take a step forwards. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Commissioner Bernard, are we ready to take this vote?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Very good. All right, all those for. Anybody opposed? See that it passes unanimously, 7-0. I think it's a great time for y'all to come on up. Let's take a nice picture here to memorialize this day and those of you who have graduated from this fine school. Right up here. Barnett and Matt. Okay, let's go. Where would you like this? I think we could put you right here next to Commissioner Barnett.
How are you? Thank you for joining us today.
I'm getting in the back.
All people in the back? Or do you want to short people? I like it.
Be on the side. Sexy.
You're fine, right?
Can I get a shirt?
Yes, yes, you may.
Could we scoot in a little bit, please, on the edges? Can we come on?
Pinky bookends, yeah.
Oh, really? You sure? Okay, so take it down there.
My favorite office man.
I just happened to see on David's computer.
Yeah, good. You want me to move it down? Okay. And you want to direct him as to where to go? Well, then you need to be up.
Yes, you do.
Just a tad.
Okay, they're looking at
Cheddar.
I know we're going to have to get closer.
Oh, she's on the ball. Oh, we don't want to miss this picture.
Hey, we still have to get a little closer.
Turn sideways. You heard the directions. Oh, yes.
Okay, that's good. Put your eyes.
Turn sideways.
Now, some people I can't see your face, so if you're short, you can come in the front.
She needs to be out front.
Perfect. Right in front of the mayor, I can't see you.
Mayor.
You can go to your left a little bit.
To the left.
Okay, there you go. Okay, I think we're good.
I didn't see.
Somebody's gonna get a referral in a minute.
Good job.
One more and we're done. Okay, thank you.
Right, because Joe Knight get mad.
Yeah, that one's mine. Huh?
Dave is coming up.
That's okay, we'll wait.
They abandoned you? What happened there?
We have two non-speaking cards.
On this issue?
On this one. On 5B1.
Very good. Do you have it on 5B1 card? Yeah. Yes? Okay, good. Okay, thank you very much. That was a warm and wonderful moment to honor our history. They say if you can't go forward unless you know where have you been. And the alumni from Roosevelt High has shown us. And I'm wondering, and I'm asking this not knowing the answer, but Ms. Baker, if a lot of the alumni would like to have a copy of that picture, would they be able to contact your office? Thank you for volunteering for that. And I met the president of the organization, and I'm sure that she will be in contact with us. Also, we will share that with Senator Arthenia Joyner and Geraldine Thompson as well. Okay, moving right along. That was great. Well, we are on 5B1, Tourist Development Council, and we have a number of cards, but I think we possibly would like to hear from staff unless there's someone who does not find that necessary.
I don't need it.
I don't see anyone. I think we've all been very much apprised of what the issues are. And so, Commissioner Woodward, did you want to say something about this?
Yes, I'd like to move this item, make a motion to approve 5B1, motion to approve an agreement between Palm Beach County and the Center for Arts and Innovation, A and B.
And we have a second, and I know that maybe right before we vote, did you want to, do you have the cards that we could do at this time? Yep. And I just want to Well, I'll wait to the very end. Thank you. All right. Commissioner Weiss, go right ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. We have two cards. They are both in support of this item. First one is from their non-speaking cards, Andrea Virgin and Erica Cassell.
And those will be received and filed. Is there any speaking cards at this time? Okay. Commissioner Woodward, you're recognized.
Thank you. I would just like to thank the board, Administrator Baker, for working on this project, and also the Tourist Development Council, Cultural Council. I'm on that board. There's a number of community partners that are serving on this, and for Andrea Virgin and her team, this is a really amazing project for South County, and it's not just like a performing arts center. There's so much to it that will provide a much needed gap filler for our county between West Palm and Fort Lauderdale. And also, you know, it's not really in competition so much with what we have existing. It's something brand new, and very excited for us to be a part of it. City is working with it, the state, a lot of funding partners in this, and a lot of private partners too. So thank you very much, and I'm very excited.
And I'd like to just take a moment of personal privilege. Could you come up to the podium, Miss Andrea Virgin? I've known Miss Virgin when she went to school with my little girl at St. Joan of Arc, and she has achieved a dream come true. And it just goes to show a Palm Beach County little girl who had a dream and has made that dream a tremendously beautiful reality that will serve our kids and the residents of Palm Beach County, and maybe we'll let a couple of Broward people in as well. But you really have achieved a tremendous amount of innovation and beauty for all of us. So I would like to have you just say a few words at this
Sure, thank you. On behalf of the Board of Directors, all of the capital donors, the founders, the advisory council members, of course the arts and cultural organizations that we're doing this on behalf of, all of the residents here in Palm Beach County, the businesses and the tourists that will come, we are incredibly, incredibly grateful for the partnership that this item shows to this project. The project has been privately funded to this point. We've gotten a very long way, but the support of the governmental bodies that get involved really add credibility to the project and allow for that private sector support to continue to come in. Thank you for showing this tremendous support. We're very excited to bring this on behalf of somebody that's grown up here in the county and who calls this home. We're very grateful to be able to bring this. It means a great deal to me personally and of course professionally on behalf of the whole organization. Thank you for this body's support. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
And thank you for all you've done.
My pleasure.
We're ready to take a vote. Anybody opposed?
Mayor, may I be recognized?
Yes, sir.
For the benefit of the clerk, could we restate the second, please?
Oh, yes. The second was the Vice Mayor Marino. Thank you, sir. Okay. Everybody for, anybody opposed? See that it passes unanimously, 7-0. Congratulations. Very nice job. Okay. All right, here we are. 5B2. I think we have the same staff here. And let me check with my colleagues. Do we need a presentation from staff at this time? No. No, I think we've all been sufficiently praised of the issues by staff. So at this time, unless there is, we have a comment by Commissioner Weiss.
No, Mayor, I just want to go ahead and approve item 5B2. This is an agreement, Palm Beach County Convention Sports Leisure International for development of tourism master plan.
And we have a second. You have first by Commissioner Weiss, second by Commissioner Woodward. All those for, anybody?
Just a quick
Yes, sir. Go right ahead. Commissioner Bernard.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. In regards to the master plan, what I wanted to find out is, I know that soccer is growing in Palm Beach County. What, Ms. George, what are, our plans for the future in terms of the growth of soccer? We have the World Cup that's, in the United States and Mexico and Canada. So if you can just expand upon that for me, please.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Commissioner. Soccer is the most highly participated sport across the globe, and it's certainly incredibly robust here in the Palm Beaches. From a sport event perspective, over the last several years, we've hosted some of the nation's largest tournaments, Development Player League, AYSO, on the less competitive side, but a tournament style and so forth and so on. Last year, we had 6 international teams training in the Palm Beaches in preparation for CONCACAF. We have Team Uruguay actually training this month as they prepare for Copa America. And there has been discussions. I know there's been reach outs to our sports commission and I believe various other community stakeholders about a desire to have a minor, or I should say a professional soccer team here, not MLS, but a USL team in this county. So it is a big part of our sport tourism fabric, and it's a concentration for us as we look to pursue events and recruit events to the county, both from a youth level to collegiate to professional.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Woodward, you're recognized.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited about the master plan that you'll all be putting together. I've spoken to a number of you, a couple of, I don't want to say concerns, but just discussions with how we manage the growth of tourism and sports, environmental, and keeping our residents in mind that it doesn't grow so quickly that they begin to hate tourism as an industry in this county. And, you know, it's a balance that we need to strike as we expand what we have and share. Residents, we're sharing our home. I mean, I like to joke, you know, I live where you vacation. We want our residents to continue to want to share that, because if they hate our tourists, then they're also going to be unkind to them and they're not going to come back. So it's a balance as you have this plan moving forward to keep that it's manageable for those of us who live here and our residents, and also keeping the people coming, because we want them to keep coming back year after year and shopping with us, eating in our restaurants, staying in our hotels. It's a good industry, but again, just keeping in mind not to let it go too far too fast, and then people won't be happy. So thank you for this. I look forward to it.
Very good. Thank you. Commissioner Baxter, you're recognized, and then Vice Mayor Marino.
Thank you, Mayor. I was looking through your presentation, and it does say a diverse tourism asset. So I want to thank you for, you know, looking at how we can bring people here. One of the things I think most of the people know that has been very near and dear to my heart has been finding a replacement for the Moroso, the racers, and it brings tourism. I mean, a road course, and so on. I mean, we have it growing. We have a lot around us. I mean, we have F1 races down at, you know, the Hard Rock Stadium. We have, you know, it's all around us. We have neighborhoods being built around tracks, I believe, in Fort Pierce. And I don't want Palm Beach County to miss out on that opportunity by leaving the racing community without anything. And so this it is very important, I feel, that if we can come together with the tourism, really just come together and find a place for them. And, you know, that requires dollars at the end of the day, and even potentially that space, if we could find another way to even get a hotel or campgrounds, however that looks, but finding a place for people to stay along with racing and coming to Palm Beach County, I'd really greatly appreciate it.
With that in mind, Mr. Perry, could you, first I'd like to recognize you as the head of the Tourist Development Council, but could you, is there something that is initiated at your level, at the Tourist Development Council, to promote a establishment of an international raceway as the one that we had many years ago, very successful with Moroso?
Good morning, Mayor, Commissioners, Vice Mayor, Madam Baker, Emmanuel Perry. Emmanuel Perry, Executive Director of the Tourist Development Council. Yes, ma'am. When the Motoroso went away, that was a tremendous hit to our county. But like many assets within our county, we look to leverage and be able to promote that, to have visitors come from all over the globe to actually experience it. So what we're promoting here in Palm Beach County is actually a lifestyle, the live, work, play aspect, and we want to embody that. So this master plan, we will actually do a large feasibility study throughout the entire county and identify what those infrastructures are that will help take our destination to the next level.
And that will include in the master plan possibility of renewing and building a new international raceway here in Palm Beach County.
We will leave no stone unturned.
No path undone. That's great. Thank you very much, Spare. I appreciate that because I know that was a big tourist development here for many, many years, and I'd like to see that continue. Thank you for that. And Vice Mayor Marino, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for bringing this forward today and for initiating this. When we talk about tourism, I mean, everybody thinks of sports, but there's other things that people can come and do here, and we have hundreds of thousands of acres of environmental trails that people can explore. We have 47 miles of coastline. We have 160 golf courses. Of course, I know that statistic, being a professional golfer. But there is so much that our county has to offer, and this is really important to know how we can position ourselves, because people know we are a sports place to come, even though we don't have professional sports teams that are actually located here other than for Major League Baseball 1 month out of the year. We do a phenomenal job of getting people here to enjoy our sports, but it's more about sports. It's about culture. It's about water. It's about environment. So anything that the master plan can do to incorporate all of that, and I thank you all because you did a survey about how are the disabled able to use our facilities. And I think you've spent a lot of time trying to figure out how can we make our facilities, no matter what they are, inclusive for everyone. And that's really, really important in your master plan. So thank you for doing this, and I'm happy to support it. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, if there's no other comments by my colleagues, we have a first. And I'd like to, are we okay, the clerk, with the first and the second? All those for, anybody opposed? See that it passes unanimously, 7-0. And thank you, each and every one of you. I'm proud to be your chair. I said that before the vote, but I wanted to thank you so much for all the work you do. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Go TDC. All right, now we're moving on to 5C1, Engineering and Public Works. And do we have any cards on this by any chance? Mr. Weiss? 5C1?
No, make
okay, staff. We have staff coming up. And again, I look towards my colleagues. Do we need, does anybody wish to have a staff report at this time? Seeing none,
I'll make
then
a motion.
We are ready to do a first by Vice Mayor Marino and a second by Commissioner Woodward. All those for, anybody opposed? See that it passes unanimously, 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Ricks. Always a pleasure to see you. That was 5C1.
And Mayor, if you don't mind, I'll make a motion for 5C2.
Let me hold on just 1 second. Now we're going on to 5C2 for the record. And anybody wish to have a hearing at this time? Seeing none, we have a first by Vice Mayor Marino, a second by Commissioner Woodward. All those for, anybody opposed? See that it passes unanimously, 7-0.
Thank you.
That was a very good presentation. Thank you, Mr. Ray. We're going on to 5D1A. And I'm looking at our attorney. For this, we would like to have a vote on D1A and B at the same time, or will they be separate?
I think you need to go through A1 for A first so that we can determine the board's direction.
Very good.
And then we know what we'll be transmitting.
So we are now on 5D1A, and I'd like to go 1, 2, 3, and 4 with the staff presentation. Again, this is a little bit more with statistics, so I'm going to look at my colleagues to see, shall we go forward with the staff presentation? I see one nodding their head, 2. So we're going to hear your staff presentation. Again, D1A, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Go right ahead. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. Tammy Fields from County Administration. At the table is Carlos Serrano, Jeff Bolton. We have both Sherrys this time, so I'll get it right. Sherry Howard and Jonathan Brown, all from the Department of Housing and Economic Development, and Sherry Brown from OFMB, and Howard Falcon from the County Attorney's Office. The last time that this item was before the board, we received valuable direction on negotiating further with the developers, and have gone out and asked each of the developers to provide a best and final proposal, and that is what is before you today. To present that, I'm going to turn it over to Jonathan Brown to go over each of the individual proposals.
Mr. Brown, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Administrator Baker. So we were here on May 7th, and we started to go through the housing bond items, and there were, I want to provide just a recap of what the Board of County Commissioners approved, and then what the Board of County Commissioners directed us to do, and what we've gone back to do, and what we're going to bring forward today. So you can see the for sale projects approved, the affordable housing multifamily approved, the workforce housing projects that were approved. Now, one of the things, or a couple of the things that the board had asked us to go back to do on the affordable projects, and you'll see today, is that we were looking to limit it as best as possible to a 15% cap, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that as we work through those projects. And then on the workforce housing multifamily, we talked about a 15% cap, but we also talked about maxing the area median income at 110% AMI. So you'll see that the developers are doing that. So one of the things that we recognize and realize is that as we heard from the board on May 7th, we went back and just taking a look at the proposals, the best and finals, but we recalled one conversation we had as we were developing the housing bond. One of the things that we talked about is using the housing bond as a supplement or replacement for the sale program, because we knew at that time sale was not consistent, but even at that time, we recognized that as a county, at best, we'll get one sale project. What we realized with sale is that the sale sets their cap at about 25% of the total project cost. So you will see where developers could not get to the 15%, they worked with under that 25%, and we believe that those projects are absolutely projects worthy of the board's consideration on today. And what's interesting about this as we move forward in this conversation is we have all of our development partners here. And I call them partners because, as we know, it's not just the county that's going to bring forth the affordable workforce housing units. It's the developers, those that have the boots on the ground every day. So I want to definitely recognize all of the developers who submitted proposals that are here and here today to talk about their projects. So just as a reminder, we're going to start with the affordable housing multifamily projects. Just a reminder that the board set the cap at 80% of AMI, so anything from 0 to 80% of AMI would be considered affordable. And today we're going to talk about 4 proposals that we have received. The first one is Village of Valor. Village of Valor, based on the board's direction, was able to go back and to reduce their original funding request from $8 million to $5.8 million, thus bringing down their total housing bond request to 21.75% of the total development costs. You'll see the period of affordability at 40 years. This particular project, located in District 3, will be 54 units. And I want to make sure we're clear. So it's 54 units with a preference for veterans. So it's not necessarily a veteran project, but it's a preference for veterans in this particular project, where the county assistance per unit is $144,000. Now, that consists of the $5.8 million that's being requested through the housing bond, but it also consists of the $2 million that the board approved in NSP on May 7th. And you can see again how the the original project cost versus the modified cost, and how we got to the overall cost of just under $27 million. You'll also see here the previous rent structure that was submitted in the original proposal versus the modified rent. One of the things to take notice is that Village of Valor, as well as others, are able to include 3-bedroom units, and 3-bedroom units are necessary when you're dealing with families. And you'll see the number of units in each of the AMI categories, as well as the proposed rent and the max rent allowable from Florida Housing Finance Corporation. And so what the modification basically for the Village of Valor project, you'll see that they decreased their housing bond request. You'll see that they increased their bank loan. They increased their deferred developer fee. They modified the rents. Although they had to eliminate the 30% AMI category, they were able to include a 40% AMI category. And then you'll see that the overall total project cost, the percentage is now at 21.75%. And that's the first one. The second proposal, Waterview Apartments, their original request of $13.7 million, now adjusted to $13 million, and they too were able to come under the 25% cap. And again, that 25% cap is what we see as the state standard when you're looking at the SAIL program, the State Apartment Incentive Loan Program. Their period of affordability is 40 years. This project is located in the town of Mangonia Park. And this project will serve or create units, 140 units for our senior population. The county assistance per unit on this particular project is at $92,857. And you can see again how their development capital stack lays out, and you can see the adjustments that were made in their original request to the county versus the modified request. There were no modifications made with regards to their rental rates and rental structures. So what was submitted is still the same. You'll see that there are some 30% AMI categories at a rent of $548, which we believe is absolutely in line with the seniors that we want to serve. So you'll see the low rates within those particular units that are going to be created. And so some of the things that the Waterview Apartments project did was that they increased their tax credit equity. They increased their Housing Finance Authority private activity bond funds. They decreased their request to the county for the housing bond loan program. And then they increased their deferred developer fee, thus reducing their total project cost to 24.77% in their Waterview Apartments project. The third request is Isaiah Clark Apartments. Their original request to the county was $22 million. That request was reduced to just under $7.4 million for a total project cost percentage of 14.99%, with a period of affordability of over 50 years. This project is located in the city of West Palm Beach, and this too is a senior project, 125 units that are dedicated to our senior population, and the county assistance per unit here is $58,900. Now, one of the things to take in consideration as to how the project was modified was that the developer is going to apply for the SAIL program. The SAIL program, as we understand, again, is a competitive program. Historically, at best, the county will get one project funded through SAIL, but the developer is going to look at that. In order for the county, in order for their project to have a legitimate opportunity at SAIL funding, they're going to need a conceptual approval from the county on that. We understand that conceptual approval is going to be conditioned upon approval of the SAIL funds, but that is one of the ways that the Housing Trust Group was able to modify their proposal to get down to under the 15%, which was requested by the board. And so you'll see here, as you have in your packet, the previous rent rates. And then you'll see here, they were modified. A couple things to take in consideration. We're excited that they still kept some 30% AMI units, and then they as well have some 50, 60, 70, and some tiered units. And again, for an affordable housing project, keeping those 30 and those 50% AMI units are critical to serving the population, the senior population that this project is looking to serve. and they too with the $548 rents, and even on a 2-bedroom at 30%, $657 is a projected rent there. And so what are some of the things that the Isaiah Clark Apartments did? Again, they decreased their housing bond request to the county. They increased their bank loan amount. They decreased their deferred developer fee. The application for sale funding, again, that we talked about, which is important, is that that application date is August 20th, and the anticipated award notification date is October 22nd. And so by applying for sale, if they are successful, that would then mean that their total project cost, the county portion, would not exceed 15%. And then the last affordable housing project that we have is the Drexel Road. Again, another senior housing project. This project is located in District 2, City of West Palm Beach. This project original request to us was $18 million. They were able to modify their request to just over $13 million with a total project cost percentage to the county, 14.65%. This project totally changed from the original look at it. Now we're talking about 222 units that will be developed on this site with the county assistance of approximately $59,400 per unit. Again, you'll see the capital structure, how it's laid out here. This project too is going to be applying for sale funding, but this project is going to apply for sale funding under a provision of the Live Local Act. So not the same sale funding that the Isaiah Clark is going to apply for, a separate provision of funding that is set aside for developers that are going to work with housing authorities. This project here is a partnership with the Palm Beach County Housing Authority, and so you'll hear more and see a little bit more about what their plans and intentions are. Previous rents, and then the modified rents. Again, anytime we see units set aside for that 30%, 33% in this particular case, that range, it does good because we understand the population they're serving is on a fixed income, and so they're targeting that with a proposed rent of $603 for those 33% AMI units. And then there's also a 2-bedroom set aside, 33% units at $723. And so some of the modifications, they decreased their housing bond request to the county, they increased their bank loan, they were able to increase their investor equity, they increased their developer fee, deferred developer fee, they modified the rents. The application for this particular sale program through Live Local, the application date is July 16th, and the notification award date we're anticipating to be August 23rd of this year. In addition, they increased the county assisted units from 88 to 222 units. Again, a massive change. And then the overall housing bond funding request would equate to about 14.65% of the total project costs. Again, another competitive program. They'll have to receive the dollars, be awarded the dollars, but we appreciate their effort. And to be honest with you, I'm sure any of our other developers could look at sale, but we know the likelihood of each of these projects receiving sale because historically, as I mentioned, you may have one sale project funded in the county. So we're definitely excited about how each of these projects move forward with their best and finals for us on today. And so, just to give you an overall overview of the affordable housing project leveraging, the amount requested based on the best and finals, just over $39 million. The total project cost is over $218 million. 541 county assistant units, 541 total units, and you see the project leveraging at a $1 to $5.6. Overall, with the affordable housing projects we're presenting to the board today through the Housing Bond Loan Program, you're talking about $72,731 per county assisted unit. And then I just want to move, I'm sorry, Commissioner.
Thanks,
Go right
Madam
ahead,
Mayor.
Commissioner Bernard.
Do you want us to address each one at a time so that way we can kind of
I think we should.
Yes,
I think we
ma'am.
should because I think that with my colleagues' permission, I think each one has different designations. And I certainly have some issues on couple of them. So I think this may be a good time to pause at this time. And if we have any questions or comments by my colleagues, Commissioner Bernard, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I know at our last meeting we talked about staying within that 15% range. Let's discuss the Village of Valor project, which, I believe that's a very good project. What I'm trying to find out is, do we have maybe additional funds or other funds that we can use to stay within that 15% range for like Village of Valor or the Waterview Apartments?
So, a great question, Commissioner. We could look at additional funds. The only comment or thought that I have is that whether it is housing bond funds or a different pot of money, when you combine those dollars or you look at those dollars, it would probably still take us over the 15% cap, because now you're looking at multiple sources.
I know that, but I'm just saying, because I know when we talked last time, we wanted to stay within that 15% range. And so what I'm trying to figure out is, do we have other sources that we can use to get there? So.
And so, Commissioner, we do have the Housing Initiatives Program, which is the ad valorem funds from the county. The board did approve 2 projects on May 7th through those dollars. It's not the housing bond program, and so the caps aren't as restrictive as what the board requested here, but that is absolutely another option that we could present to the Board of County Commissioners.
Yeah, because I'm looking at, the Village of Valor, great project, and, I know that we as a board want to stay within that 15% range. And so what can we do to stay within that 15% range and use other sources if possible? Okay. So, but that's my question.
If I could, I think that's an excellent point, Commissioner Bernard. And I like this group that has put together the Village of Valor. However, I think that we can probably pull down federal funds if this is a Village of Valor, which has been recognized, by the way, by the Florida Department of Veteran Affairs in Tallahassee. So with that in mind, and understanding what Commissioner Bernard's concern is, have we looked towards federal funds and state funds to help with the Village of Valor?
So yes, ma'am, Mayor. So this particular project, Village of Valor, we have definitely looked at the federal funds. We presented to the board on May 7th NSP dollars, and the board approved $2 million for this particular project. It's the county's federal allocation received from HUD. So we've looked at that.
I'm not talking about HUD. I'm talking about the Florida Department of Veteran Affairs. Village of Valor is based on nonprofits of veterans, wonderful guys and gals. I've met them. They're very, very committed to helping veterans. And even though this is not only open to veterans, I think that we definitely need to speak to the Florida Department of Veteran Affairs as well as the United States Department of Veteran Affairs. And if we have not done that, when can we do it?
So, great question, Mayor. So I will leave that up to the developers, because the developers are the ones financing their projects. And so I know we have that developer group here, and they can share with you what sources and what other funding sources they looked at.
Do we have, but we're putting in county funds. Okay,
yes, ma'am.
So that's what, I'm not concerned about who's going to construct it. I'm concerned about the money. Okay, let's be very clear. And Commissioner Bernard brought out an excellent point when it comes to this various sources of funding for this project. The Village of Valor is recognized by the Florida Department of Veteran Affairs. Let's get some thoughts, let's get some action towards asking for and receiving funds from our Veteran Affairs. Ms. Baker, you're recognized.
We will follow through on that,
it.
Commissioner. We'll work with the developer and follow through with the veterans at the federal and state level.
It's an excellent project. And it is recognized by our Veteran Affairs. And it's for veterans. Let's make sure that we have a good partner with our Veteran Affairs. Any other issues on this one? I'm looking at you, Commissioner Bernard, but it could be Commissioner Baxter. Go right ahead, ma'am.
Hi, guys. Thank you for putting this together. My concern really is kind of the per unit cost we're contributing. We put this at a percentage, but $144,000 per unit. That is, I just don't want to burn through this housing bond so quickly. We're supposed to be getting as many units as possible. I understand, and I love the project. I love it supporting our veterans, have preference. I mean, I can't tell you enough. I just concerned that right off the top, we're spending a lot of these dollars, and I'm afraid it's going to run out very quickly at that rate per unit. And that's my concern, really. And my question is, you said there was a preference for veterans, and I'm just curious, how does that preference system work?
So, because the veterans aren't a protected class, they cannot exclude individuals that are not veterans. I would imagine as they develop their intake process and their approval process, they'll have to have something that would provide a veteran preference. So if you are a veteran and maybe there's one unit left and you're applying and there's someone who is a non-veteran, that veteran, provided they meet all the requirements, would be given the preference for that unit.
Over none. Okay, thank you for answering that.
Yes, ma'am.
And then at one point you had said that some of these programs require a conceptual approval
Yes, ma'am.
before they can go on.
Yes, ma'am. And so in this particular case, all of them will require conceptual approval because the first step is to, one, get them conceptually approved so they can go through the third-party underwriting. Ultimately, it's the third-party underwriting that's going to dig a little bit deeper than what staff dug into to determine the feasibility of these particular projects to make sure they're right size. Are we over-subsidizing? Are we not? To make sure that the costs are certified, to make sure the costs are reasonable for the projects. And then once that's done, we bring back those conceptual approvals to the board along with term sheets so you can make a final determination on whether or not you want to allocate housing bond funds to those projects.
And so on that point, do we have something in the framework now of a way, if, say, we give conceptual approval and they apply to that third party you're referencing, what if they don't get approved at the third party? Do we have a way, or do we need a way, Administrator Baker, to bring those dollars back to us? Or how does that all? Okay, so, or once it's approved, I guess what I'm saying, are those dollars no longer allowed to be used, let's say, instead of getting dollars back because we haven't paid them out yet? What happens with those dollars that are approved or spoken for?
If they go through the process and either don't receive the sale funding, then the project is pretty dead unless they come back with some other sources, which we would then bring back to the board anyway. The dollars are not committed until you sign that contract with the entity. So all of this is conceptual. We'll continue to work with them, and I think you also received a letter from one of them that said they were going to go after other public funding, and if they got it, they would split that additional funding. So nothing is final until we bring back the contract to this board. And then they have a year to break ground after the final contract. If they don't break ground, we sweep the dollars back. It goes back into the fund.
That was my question.
Yes.
So thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Baxter. Vice Mayor Marino, you're recognized.
Thank you. I know we talked about the Veteran Affairs and the federal government. That is not our job to do that. That is the developer's job to do that. Do we know if the developer has even opened that door yet?
I would defer that, if I can, Vice Mayor, to the developer who's here. They can share with you the efforts that they have made in terms of securing and applying for different funding sources.
I think it's either we table the discussion or they give us a little bit more information today. That would be up to the rest of the board what their preference is. But so if there's someone that can answer the questions, that would be great.
Mm-hmm.
so we have more info.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. You're recognized. If you could give us your name, appreciate
Roy
it.
I don't think we.
Foster. I'm from Faith of Love Charity, which is actually the owner of the Village of Valor, a not-for-profit 501c3. First of all, Ms. Mayor, Ms. Baker, commissioners, what are we trying to accomplish and how is it that we've gotten to this point? One is we're looking for suitable, affordable housing for veterans. Not only are we addressing the housing needs that goes with the veterans, there are many other barriers that veterans are challenged with returning from combat and war. What we have with the village, and I think this is a part of why the
Sir, I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second. I apologize. First, your name.
Roy Foster.
Thank you, Roy. Second, we asked you to come up here to answer a very specific question. Okay. Have you contacted Veterans Affairs and have you contacted any other federal governmental agency? Because again, that's not what we do. So if you can answer that question, we'd appreciate it.
As it relates to the housing project, we have not.
Well, that's an easy answer.
Well, we receive federal funds for services which are inclusive in there from the Department of Veterans Affairs, and this is a part of the whole initiative in and of itself. The services that are going to be wrapped around the veterans are there. So from that perspective of funds for services, yes. From the brick and mortar portion, no.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sir, just I want to thank you for your service. I met you before. We discussed it. You've done a lot with your organization. You don't need to say anything. Best thing to do is say nothing when somebody gives you a great compliment. We're going to work with you. And Mr. Brown, this is about the money. We're putting money in here, and we, the county, needs to make sure before I take a vote positive on this, that we have exhausted all public funds that are available for this project to help with the funding by the county. Thank you, sir. Commissioner Weiss, you're recognized.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I have to agree with Commissioner Baxter. I mean, you're looking at these dollars on a per unit basis. You know, even taking out the other $2 million we put into this project, there's still, the subsidy on this one is at $107,000 a unit. The folks that came in at the 15%, we're looking much closer to $60,000 per unit, which, you know, if you take that over the 200 million, it'll tell you how much we're going to, at that level, what we can do. But this is almost double and when you add in the other 2 million, it is over double. I'm going to suggest on this item that for the Village of Valor that we go ahead and we table this and allow you all to work with them and see if you can find some additional federal or state dollars. I agree that it's a wonderful project, but it's not. We had set this at 15%, and I think we really need to try and maintain that level of support. And so that would be my suggestion on this item.
Commissioner Baxter, you recognize that we're going to discuss the motion by Commissioner Weiss.
It was a question for, thank you, Mayor, for Sherry Brown. You had expressed some concern at the last meeting regarding allocating the bonds in our budgeting cycle. So if we table this, is it possible for us to approve the bonds but not set where they go yet or the policies that guide them?
Correct. So we're issuing bonds. We're going to advertise tomorrow. So we're kind of like, this is the deadline, today is. So we're going to come up with a dollar amount if you approve some of the projects. We will be in the market next week and closing in July. So that way we're able to set our millage rate for this on July 2nd. So, but you can set it for any dollar amounts. You can tell me that we have $90 million worth of projects between the two items presented today, plus what we approved at the last one. And if you say, go ahead and issue $90 million of bonds, they'll sit until we come back with contracts and allocate them for specific dollar amounts.
And so because I think it's a great project, and if we can work those numbers, is it better for us to then at least allocate those dollars for it should it work out? Are we allowed to do that?
We can, because the bond proceeds have to be used for housing. And so that's the only purpose for these bonds. So whether we use it for, because there could be one of these that we think is a good one and we're all happy and we want to do something, but it may fall apart later on. But those bond proceeds are going to set in a separate fund only to be used for housing until a project is approved by the board.
Thank you.
Commissioner Woodward, you're recognized.
Thank you. And to follow up on Commissioner Baxter, I also had asked if we issue the bonds and some of these projects don't make it through underwriting, whatever the problems that come with them, that money that's been issued, can we then gain interest on that? What happens with it? Doesn't just have to sit there, right?
Yeah, we get cash on July 3rd, assuming we go ahead and go forward and you approve something today. So that money is going to sit just like every other dollar we have, and it's invested as part of our investment plan with the clerk's office. It will earn interest, and those interest earnings will be used for other housing projects too. So yeah, it will be there.
So the interest that's gained on that, it would be tied to what the original funds are for.
Right,
okay.
right.
If I could understand this, so if we agree today to these housing bonds, it doesn't necessarily mean that we are going to silo them into particular projects, or does it? In other words, if we agree today, we're going to get the bonds, we're going to earn interest on those bonds, and then at a later date, if we table a particular project, then we can revisit that project or not, and utilize that bond money for whatever project that you present back to us as a board. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So if we're going to vote today, then we can vote. Now we have one motion already on the table, but I just want to be sure. If we vote today, can we vote only on the issuance of bonds for affordable housing and leave to a later date the particular projects that they would be taken care of, or they would be projected to? Miss Lawyer.
I was going to just add, based on what Jonathan has said earlier, that we do need conceptual approval on the projects so that some of these projects can go forward with like the sale funds and other types of things. However, it doesn't commit us to it until a contract is brought back. But I'm not the attorney, but I pretend to be every once in a while, so.
She pretends to be a lot. She does a great job. So I'll defer to Sherry. We have a motion on the table. What we agreed to today, if we conceptually approve the projects, that helps Sherry determine the amount of bonds that she wants to go ahead and issue. It is not committing us to these projects. We don't have to. We can table one or more projects, which of course would signal to the developers they have more work to do. And we can bring those up later too. But there's no reason that Sherry cannot go ahead and commit and issue the full amount of the bonds with the understanding that's likely the board will revisit projects and have some room for that later on.
Madam Mayor, there is...
I'm sorry, go ahead, Ms.
I
Fields.
just wanted to clarify that for at least two of these projects who are seeking sale funding, we would need to have that conceptual approval today so that they will be able to submit their applications. Again, it would not bind us until we have, it goes through the underwriting process, and the underwriters for the sale program are the same as we utilize. But those two projects in particular would need a conceptual approval in order for them to be able to make that representation in their sale application.
Which are those two projects?
That's
the Isaiah Clark and the Drexel. But
we have a couple of lights on.
Okay.
I'd like to recognize Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor. I forgot to ask the first time when I was asking about interest. Also, when we issue we go out for bonds, are there fees that we also have to pay, like
Correct.
sort of like closing costs?
Correct. It's issuance fees, yes. It's just like closing costs.
So does it behoove us to do like a larger, do you kind of go ahead and cover everything we may be wanting to do versus
Right.
break this up into two different allocations?
So I'm going based on what's presented here today for the two items and from last time. So you have almost $90 million worth of housing projects. But when I issue bonds, I would say we're going to be at a not to exceed amount of like 92 million. So that gives me a little flexibility. I don't think I need 2 million in closing costs, but it just gives me the flexibility in case I need it. So I wouldn't have to change the bonds at the last minute, and I wouldn't have a chance to come back to the board to make any changes. So that's what we're looking at now.
And so my other question is, I guess, more procedural, because we're discussing two projects that need us to move forward, and both of them got under the 15% that are seeking sale funds, right? And the other two that are above, their approval is not contingent on today. Village of Valor is the one that you're tabling. Right? Sorry, I had to step out for a nature break, but you were tabling just Village of Valor? Oh, both of them. Okay. So.
Yeah, but I think so. I wouldn't.
Commissioner, go ahead, Bernard.
Madam Mayor, I wouldn't table both of them. I think we're discussing one item at a time. So right now we're discussing Village at Valor, and so there's a motion to table that, but we have not gone into Waterview Apartments to discuss that project.
And I think what we're discussing, though, is the conceptualizing of getting the money and not necessarily having to specify exactly which item it goes to. So that was good in the overall, but I think the motion is on that one Village of Valor. Go ahead, Commissioner
My
Woodward. Thanks
question
for
then
bringing
is,
that up.
if we table this, but put it into, we can still put it for the bond allocation, even though we're tabling the project, we can still potentially have that in the bond money.
Correct.
Okay.
And so we're not to the next item, but I know we talked a little bit about it yesterday with Judge Rogers' project, which isn't ready today. However, we could issue what their ask is as part of our bond in the hopes that they're going to be ready in the next year, because we have a short window to issue bonds to get the millage rates and things like that. So we're not going to be looking at issuing any more GO bonds for at least a year.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that tabling it doesn't mean we can't put it towards the bond dollar amount. Okay.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner Woodward. Commissioner Weiss, you had your light on. Go right ahead. It's off now. That was fast. Commissioner Baxter.
So I would like to, I guess, I don't know if it requires if we're going to vote on different motions. There's a motion on the table. I guess I would like to modify or have a substitute motion of sorts, or with Commissioner Weiss's permission, modify his. I don't know which is the best approach, but to not approve this conceptually, but to a substitute motion to approve the bond amount.
Yeah, we're going to do that. That's a different.
So you want to do that?
That's coming later.
Could I have the attorney opine on that? If this is something that, and could you restate what you were saying on the substitute motion? Commissioner Baxter, could you restate it, please?
So my substitute motion, which I understand we're taking separate votes here, but if we get one that's saying we're okay, I guess the idea of how I see this going, let me state that before restating the motion, is that if we at least approve the bond dollars, we've gotten that out of the way. Then we can start giving direction of how conceptually we want the project to come back to us. Because right now, the applicant would have no idea. So I'm trying to figure out how do we get what we want, I guess.
Let's find out. Ms. Baker.
If the board is going to give us approval, let's say you conceptually approve all of these projects, even though some may come back at a later date, or you may not fund it at all. The total would be roughly about 92, as stated by Ms. Brown. So you approve, reorder the agenda, and take 5E1, which is the bond, and then you tell us how much you want us to not to exceed, which would be the 92 million that Mrs. Brown stated earlier. That will take care of the bond issue. And then we can go back to the other items.
So I think Commissioner Bernard knows where I'm going with this, so I'm going to let him take over.
Yeah, he does. Commissioner, well, no, but
Yes.
I think that was stated very, if we look at 5E1 for a minute, then what we're doing here on this issue is that we would be approving or disapproving the amount of the bonds for affordable housing. Is that correct, staff?
For, again, when you say approving or disapproving for affordable housing, I think you're looking at it project by project. So I don't know.
I don't think so. I think what Ms. Baker said was correct now. And I'm looking at, if you don't mind, Mr. Brown, I'm looking at our money people here when it comes to these bonds. 5E1 is that we would adopt or not adopt, as my colleagues want, bonds in the amount of $127 million for the construction of affordable housing. And that would be just sort of a blanket issuance of bonds. What we're looking at now is 4 specific projects for the issuance of these bonds. Am I stating that correctly or not?
Right, kind of in the middle there in steps. So we had 127 million based on what we brought to you back in May. The projects have changed. We left it at the 127 million because I'm not sure what everybody's idea was, and we were still working on the projects with the developers through last week. So this got us on the agenda so we could talk about it. So now we're looking at, with the new proposals, of project cost of around 90 million and a not to exceed amount of 92 million to give me the flexibility. So that 127 is really 92. If you're okay with me issuing for everything that's presented today, it doesn't mean you're going to write a contract with Village of Valor or any of the others. It would just give us the funds so that if they come back and you want to do a contract, we have funding available for their projects.
But if we have a motion on the table, which we do by Commissioner Weiss, to table one of the items, and if we went ahead and voted yes, that we want 127, not to exceed $127 million in bonds, then we don't necessarily have to identify the 4 items that have been identified to put that money into at this time.
Right.
Okay,
And,
so
you have projects that may.
We do
go ahead.
have, so
Good.
we
Commissioner
have,
Bernard?
Madam Mayor, we have 2 projects that needs an approval from this board in order for them to apply for sale or under the Live Local Act. So we cannot just create a blanket rule for those 2 projects. They need approval from us.
And those 2 projects are?
Those 2 projects are
Isaiah Clark
Isaiah
and
Clark
Drexel.
and
Okay,
Drexel.
very good. Thank you.
But just a note or a comment, any of these projects can apply for sale. And at best, you'll get 1 project. So Waterview Apartments can apply for sale. And at best, they'll be competing against the other sale projects you approved today.
Okay.
I'd like to recognize the attorney. I know Commissioner Weiss wants to speak, but Ms. Attorney.
Madam Mayor, I think that we need to just go ahead and proceed with this item. Our resolution of this item will not affect what your decision on the amount of bonds. You can decide on each item individually and then decide on the amount of the bonds. These are proposed projects to be funded from the bonds. There are other proposed projects that we've already conceptually approved. So let's go ahead and go through these items.
1, 2, 3, 4. Very good.
Right, we have a motion, but I'm not sure we have a second.
We do not yet. I'm just trying to recognize everybody who does want to speak. And we do have a motion on the floor. We do not have a second yet. Commissioner Weiss, you're recognized.
Thank you. Okay, first I'm going to withdraw my motion to table at this time. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to approve conceptually projects number 3 and 4, the Isaiah Clark Apartments and the Drexel Road Senior Apartments. So we'll give those conceptual approval.
Second.
We have a second. Everybody for, anybody oppose? See that it passes unanimously.
And then I'd like to make a motion.
Hey, hold on just 1 second. It passes unanimously. Okay. Now we're going on to that one that has not been approved yet. Go right ahead.
I'm just going to go ahead and make a motion to both table Village of Valor and Waterview Apartments to give them more time to see if they can come up with additional funding sources.
Do we have a second?
Is that too much?
I just would like, I don't know, I'd like to know a little bit more about the Waterview Apartments. Seeing that there's so many senior units, about 56 units, I'd like to know a little bit more so I can understand the project, if you don't mind.
All right, then we're going to have a little discussion on that before we get a second on Commissioner Weiss's motion.
I'll second it, but I just want to make sure we get a little bit more information to understand that project.
Commissioner Bernard? Would you like it at this time?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, very good. Okay, Mr. Brown?
Yes. So the second project, the Waterview Apartments, and their modified request, again, here at the 24.77% of the total cost. But I would also just remind the board that it's a senior housing project, and I would also remind the board of the low AMIs that they're targeting. Low AMIs and a senior project will require either more funding from the county, or it will require a higher cap than the 15%. Because again, you're dealing with a vulnerable population who doesn't have an unlimited or a growing source of income. And so from a staff perspective, because again, the 30% units at $548, and because the it's 140 total units, it's a recommendation from staff that this is a project supported. In addition, there are tax credit dollars, a 4% tax credit that's also part of their capital stack. They need some direction on moving forward so they don't lose dollars that they were able to go out and secure for this particular project.
Okay. Makes it very clear, doesn't it? All right. We have a motion on the floor. And are we ready for, you said that you were going to second it?
I'm going to withdraw my second because I think that,
okay,
you know, this project, seeing that you're having 30%, well, 56 units are going to be at 30% of the area median income, where you have the rents are going to be at $548 for seniors. And we've talked about senior housing. And I don't think that we should table this project. I think that we should move it forward.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor. Looking for a second. Commissioner Baxter, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. And with your permission, I'd like to ask if Mr. Weir could come to the podium and maybe answer some questions for us.
Mr. Weir, you're recognized, sir.
I think the important thing here is, I want to acknowledge the work of the staff and the developers to try and get this done, but it's a program. It's not just a project by project exercise. And what you're looking at is you're looking at a number of decisions that you have to make from a policy standpoint. The first one is, what's the maximum percentage of project financing that you're prepared to put in there? That's the 15% that you've been talking about. So the question you have is, if that's your policy, do you make exceptions if there's a particularly compelling argument? Senior, nonprofit, low AMI. That's a policy decision you have to make. The trade-off you have is when you target low AMIs, you get less units for a given dollar of bond proceeds. So that's a policy decision. It's a trade-off, and you should understand that going in. The other is the subsidy per unit. So there was a lot of talk in the housing plan about what the bonds would look like, and then there was the bond framework that you adopted. We took out any guardrails in that. The expectation was that they would be in the RFP. They haven't been in the RFP, but what we were talking about was a maximum of $50,000 per unit on the subsidy. And again, it's a matter of math. The bonds were never going to carry all the weight of our goal to try and hit 2,000 units a year once the program ramped up from our baseline of about 500. But if you're doing 50,000 a unit, that's 4,000 units out of the 200 million. If you're doing 100,000 a unit, well, then you're down to 2,000. So that means all the non-bond sources have to carry 90% of the weight if you're trying to achieve that goal. So again, it's a policy trade-off. The other things that we haven't really discussed here is, what's your maximum subsidy per project? When we had talked about this conceptually, it was 10 million It's 10 million per project. And the idea was you don't want to have too much risk concentrated in any individual project, because if it founders and it's more dollars committed, it could impact the program. And the other is, do you have a subsidy limit per developer? I mean, how many eggs do you want to put in one developer basket? There was never any real discussion with county staff about this. We had discussed internally maybe 20 million per developer. But the bond dollars are precious. The way the campaign worked was we talked about the missing middle, and that was the workforce housing. Now, it's not a surprise that the affordable housing developers, who are well organized and are used to applying for subsidies, were the first ones out of the gate. I remember Mayor Sachs, you asked me 2 years ago who was going to apply for these bond proceeds. And, you know, some of the people that I mentioned are here now applying for the bond proceeds. But when you approve these, and we were talking about the idea of buckets, and we talked about 100 million for workforce housing, 50 million for affordable housing, 50 million for for-sale housing. And part of the reason for the emphasis on workforce housing is the missing middle, and there's no subsidy source for workforce housing. Affordable housing, you have tax credits, you have sale, you have SHIP, you have bonds. So that was the reason for the emphasis on that. So if you approve what you have here in these dollar amounts, you'll have approved 46 million out of the conceivable 50 million bucket for affordable housing. So that doesn't mean that you're locked into those numbers, but one of the things that we had talked about was loan recycling. And so for the workforce housing units, you know when those projects are sold, because they're basically conventional projects, that the bond dollars will be repaid. For for-sale housing, you know they'll be repaid because it's a construction loan, it's a revolver. On the affordable deals, they're really not going to be repaid. That's a feature, it's not a bug, but they have long compliance periods. So 15 years from placed in service, 18 years for sale. So once those funds are committed in there, you know, that's where they're going. That's the service that they're going to do. One of the things that you've been forced to confront is this whole idea of the conditional commitment. Well, give us the commitment so we can apply for sale. It's not something that we really contemplated. I do have issue with what Mr. Brown's been saying about sale. He's talking about sale historically, where sometimes there'd be 100 million in sale, sometimes there'd be 50 million in sale, and he's right. Palm Beach County was lucky to get one sale deal there. We're in a different environment now. Sale is fully funded, and there's 150 million of supplemental live local sale as well. So I would expect a large county like Palm Beach County to get more than one sale. So the Waterview argument that, well, give us a little more money and then we don't have to apply for sale and that clears the way for another project, it's a good argument. It's a tactical argument, and I think it's something you should consider and get input from the staff. One last thing on this competitive thing. I mean, I read the materials, not the agenda, but the materials behind the agenda. So what the developer was asking for was, well, we're going to apply for sale. If we don't get that, we're going to go for this application cycle. If we don't get that, we're going to go for this application cycle. And they asked for a 3-year commitment. I wouldn't agree to that if I were in your position. I think they apply for the sale. If they get the sale, great, they move forward. If they don't get the sale, then they can reapply like anybody else and do that. So. One last thing, cost increases. I noticed a couple of these deals actually had cost increases from 4 weeks ago to today. So you'll want to have a policy in place to determine how you handle cost increases. Are developers going to come back to the county and say our cost went up, we need 4 million more in bonds, or how is that going to work? So, I mean, it's a program, and the staff has worked hard. They're confronting issues in some cases for the first time, but the bond dollars are precious. We campaigned on the basis of the missing middle and trying to stretch these. On the workforce housing deals that you'll consider, we're looking for leverage ratios of higher to 5 to 1, and that would point you towards a lower subsidy per unit. So, thank you, and happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Yes, thank you, Commissioner Brown.
Thank you. You actually covered all my questions and one fell. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Commissioner Baxter.
Thank you.
Thank
And to follow up on what he was saying, and he puts it so well.
And I appreciate you having him come forward because he understands this issue, and he's very much part of Palm Beach County's move towards financing workforce and affordable housing. This is a complex discussion, and I know somebody is raising their hand there. And just 1 minute, Mr. Brown. We have a number of cards, Commissioner Weiss. We have 20 cards. Is that true? Yes, sir. Okay.
Madam Mayor, if I may
Commissioner
finish.
Baxter?
Yeah. So just to state where I stand on this, and then I would love to hear from the rest of the board and public comment on it. To his point, I would love us to set the framework mentioned. I think we all agreed last time on a max percentage of 15%, and I will leave that up to the board's discretion if they want to make special exceptions for special programs.
Sure.
I liked he said 50,000, but I looked at the two projects that seemed like great projects, and they come in under 60,000. So I think that's a great per unit cap. That we have been discussing would be the 60,000. Also, I do like the idea of having potentially a per project cost. I just don't see how that, whether it's 10 or 20 million, fits into what we're going to maximize the amount of units. So I don't really have a set number there, because I believe one of these, we just said yes to was 37 million. But lastly, just to wrap this up, cost increase in policy, I definitely want something put in place as far as they can't keep coming back and ask more and more and more. They need to set that kind of, let's set something. We know costs go up. So I'd like us to think about that. And if they are thought of 100 million towards workforce, 50 towards affordable, and we're already at 46, how much of the workforce housing have we then met? I didn't hear that number.
And so the workforce is going to be the next part of the presentation. But to that point, Commissioner, that was a number that Jack and the HLC stated. It did not make the policy document that the board approved.
I love the idea of having different silos, and the sale one, I think Commissioner Weiss was actually said it last time we were here, how expensive it is. But what I failed to recognize at that time, it's also the quickest recapture of money that we have, because as soon as they're built and sold, that money is then replenished. Is that correct?
Yes.
So I love the idea of the 50, 50, and 100, and really, that's where I stand. So thank you.
Appreciate it, and I know you want to respond. I have one other commissioner, and then I'm going to give you the opportunity to respond. Mr. Brown. Commissioner Woodward, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of points that I think we need to keep in mind. A lot of this, we've talked about, affordable, we talk about workforce, we talk about percentages, but right now, 80%, which is affordable housing, a 3-bedroom, we're still looking at $2,000 a month in rent. So I understand when this process started, what was considered, that middle that we're talking about. I'm struggling that the lower income that we're affordable, we haven't even gotten to workforce yet. I mean, we're talking, a 2-bedroom is $1,750. A 3-bedroom is $2,000. This is what's considered affordable. We're going to get to workforce in a minute, but using these terms and percentages, we need to talk dollars.
Yes, ma'am.
And when someone's writing their rent check, they're not thinking, oh, I'm 80%, I'm whatever. It's like, no, I got to write a $2,000 check to pay for this apartment. And we know that construction costs have gone up. We know all of these things. We are dealing in a world that didn't exist when this was started. And, I've had a number of conversations, anyone who's anywhere in finance over the past month since we started this, I keep asking, what's considered gap financing? Just in the private world out there. And I'm told, anywhere from like 20 to 30% is kind of common practice out there. They were giving me 50% would be your loan, 30% is some sort of an equity that's put into it, and then there's usually that 20% that's the average of what they're looking at. So, you know, I know we said 15% last time. This is new for all of us. Up to 20 seems like that's the private market that tends to go for that, which is still, some of these, they've got to sharpen their pencils a little bit more, I think. But you know, and when we're talking about, you know, limiting ourselves to how much we're going to put towards developers, you know, certain dollar amounts, if we're only having a few people who really know how to do this, who are going to build these units, who work the system, and it is a system, if they know how to do this, we're probably not going to have too many choices, let's just say. And I don't want us to limit, if we have someone who is doing, you know, good projects with us, they cycle it through in a couple of years, and then we're like, sorry, you've already met your cap. I wouldn't want to put a limit on any of these developers. If they deliver a good product, they build it, we get our money back, they come back again. I don't see why we would ever want to limit or put a cap on that. We don't know where this is going in the future, so leave that to the market. And that's all I'll say.
At this time. At this time. Very good. Mr. Brown, I promised you to have time to comment.
Thank you, Mayor. And I want to, again, we've had a number of conversations with Jack, the Housing Leadership Council, and just kind of focus the thought back on, and Jack can correct me if I'm wrong, right now what he focuses in on is workforce housing. We actually have affordable housing developers who are here that are doing this every day that I think it's important to hear from, because they will tell you the story of what they're seeing as they're putting together their affordable housing project. And as Jack mentioned, there were a lot of conversations that took place that actually didn't make it to the board. One was our concern that the rents were too high. And we had a number of those conversations about making adjustments. And where we settled in on was providing preference points, extra points to developers who were able to charge less than what the maximum rental rates were. Now that changed a little bit when we came back with the best and finals, but that was kind of the way we were going to target that. But because these are dollars that the board is providing, the board does have the ability to set the max rental rates that we want to see on these county assisted units.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Commissioner Bernard, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I think there's a struggle. We're struggling with this issue because of the fact that we created a bond allocation process, but this is the first time that we're actually applying the bond allocation process. Now we have individuals, developers who we put out the RFP, and they submitted based on the RFP that we put out. I think that it's important for us to, you know, make the decisions that we should make on these projects that are in front of us. And at the same time, we should give staff the opportunity to work with, to go back and redraft a bond allocation process based on the comments that's being presented. I think it'll be very difficult for us to just make blanket policy on single-family homes for sale right here without having discussions with the developers who build single-family homes. And when we created the bond allocation process, it took us almost a year for us to bring something to this board. So I would like for us to, some of the things that Jack suggested, I'd like for us to take that to staff, and then for us to meet with the Housing Leadership Council, meet with the different interest groups, the affordable developers, the workforce developers, the for-sale nonprofit developers, so in that way they can come back to us with a bond allocation process that we can vote on, that we'll have a full-fledged discussion regarding that.
Madam Mayor, if I could add to that, one thing that would be very helpful is for us to be able to go through the underwriting process with some of these projects, so that we're also getting the feedback back from the underwriting side of it as to the feasibility with the different rules in place. So it might take us a little bit longer to come back with that after we're able to take some of these projects through underwriting.
Yeah, because I agree. Because when you go through the third-party underwriting, we're doing these brain freezing exercises, and when they go through the underwriting, it may be just a completely different process in terms of sizing these projects, where we may need to adjust some things some more.
Thank you, Commissioner. Ms. Baker, you're recognized, and Commissioner Baxter.
The last thing I'd like to ask this board to allow us is to add our bankers, our financing folks, to the group that we're going to speak with as well, because they were very helpful when we were able to bring the developers, all of those groups in at one time so we can make sure we're getting the proper feedback from everyone. So I'd like to add the bankers to this as well.
Very good. Commissioner Baxter.
Thank you, Commissioner Bernard, for what you said, because I struggled because I have a huge problem with being left out of this, the information cloud, I'll call it, until the last minute. And it's once again, and so I'm scrambling to get information and bring it here. So I'd really like for us, if we're going to do this, to have all of us here in a publicly noticed meeting with Mr. Weir, and the people who are setting these, and bring that information to us, not just everyone else and then come tell us. Like, let us hear it. Let us digest it and make those decisions accordingly. The way, which is why I think we're all struggling last minute. Yes, this is the first time we're allocating it, but also, this was set up before a lot of us were even on the board. So I think there's a serious gap here of information. So I'd really like, whatever that looks like, if it's a workshop or whatnot, to have it come and have them, have the bankers, have the, the builders, have the people who were part of the initial bond allocation, present all that information and talk to us, please. So thank you. So
we're faced now, we have a motion on the floor, we don't have a second, but it appears that we have a multifaceted issue here that that we may not be prepared at this day to.
No, Madam Mayor, I think that we've already decided on the two projects that are cell projects, and what we could do is continue to go, if we want to, continue to go over each project one issue at a time, and then we can decide whether we would give them conceptual approval or not. And then we would vote on item 5E1, and then so that way staff can move forward.
Okay. Now, so we have 4 projects, and I'm stating this with looking at all my colleagues here. We have 4 projects. The first is Village of Valor, and we have a motion on the floor to table. Have you withdrawn that, Commissioner Weiss? Okay, so that's good. It's completely clear then. And if with permission of the attorney, if we could do each project separately, as Commissioner Bernard has recommended, and if that's okay with the board, we can move forward on voting on each project individually. I'm sorry. Let's put your light on. Let me hear you.
He has to withdraw his motion. His motion was for 1 and 2.
Okay.
So we're going to start fresh. He withdraws his motion and makes a motion to approve.
No, we did a motion to approve items 3 and 4 conceptually.
Right. Those are done.
Right.
So now we're dealing with 1 and 2.
And I withdrew that.
Okay, that's what I was asking. So now the motion would be to approve number 1. We deal with that, and then we deal with number 2.
This is clear as ice, I tell you. This is
ice.
This is what.
Ice.
Yes, this is ice. This is such a complex topic that I like the fact that we're discussing it openly and candidly like this. It's not simple, and you all have worked very hard on it. Congratulations to the staff. I want everybody to understand, though, that I have 20 cards.
Correct.
20 cards. So we will, but it's important that we, as a county commission, openly discuss this. Commissioner Bernard?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. On item 5, for the Village of Valor, I would make a motion that we table this item, and we would ask them to seek other funding sources to.
Okay. We have a second by, we have a first by Commissioner Bernard, a second by Commissioner Weiss. All those for? Anybody opposed? See that it passes unanimously, 7-0 to table. Number 1, that is 5D1A1, Village of Valor. Now, moving, and Ms. Kaufman, do you recommend that we do those that are?
We need a motion on 5D1A2.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Waterview Apartments.
Madam Mayor,
Commissioner Bernard, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. For Waterview Apartment, I would make a motion that we approve this item, but also to ask them to seek sale and to work with staff to reduce the total project cost.
Okay. May I?
Or seek other funding sources from the county that could, if there are other funding sources.
Okay, I'm looking at staff now. Is that something that you can proceed with on this motion, sir?
We can, just a point of clarification, Commissioner. It doesn't matter if it's other county funds?
Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's other county funds, because I like the fact that it's got the 30% of the AMI that, I like that amount, and I want to see us figure out a way to make this deal work.
Yes, sir. And is there a certain cap the board wants on the bond funds? Are we back at the 15 or are we at the 20?
I think let's stick to that. Let's get to as close to that 15% as possible. Okay. Even, but you can work with them, but we want to stick to that 15%. Okay. As close as possible.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Bernard. And I know that the lawyer has her light on. We have 20 cards of public comment. And we also have some very hungry commissioners here. So what I would suggest is it is 12:12. We take a hard break for 30 minutes. We have lunch provided here by the county so that we don't need to go out to have lunch. We have a long day today. We have a lot to cover, and we need to cover it. So if there's no objection, and I know we have a motion on the floor, I would like to agree to have everybody take a 30-minute lunch break now. It's on the 12th floor. I can. Seventh floor. And take a 30-minute lunch break. Come back and have these cards read, because I think that's important before we make a decision on a vote. Is there anybody that would be opposed to that 30-minute lunch break? I know I've got consensus. Okay, we are breaking at 12:15. We're breaking right now, and we will be back. Give me 30 minutes, Maria. Did we get a second? That would be 12:45. We'll see y'all here. Thanks.